Good morning, and thank you very much. Nice work for having me, and Creative Mornings for having me. That's very nice. Did you see Ross didn't even turn his phone off in his own speech? So you can turn your phone off
It's
now.
social medias.
Oh, are you social media?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is on Twitter right now.
Yeah, in terms of social medias, we've got our analog feed here. So there's the Facebook handle of the show. Okay. All right. Hey, I know, it's so embarrassing. Okay, so Ross asked me to speak about play, and then I was like, oh, cool, because he asked me like 6 weeks ago, and I didn't really think about it until this week, and then it was too late. And I went online and looked at all the people who are speaking currently in Prague and are about to speak in Melbourne, and they're all incredibly important people. The Prague guy is the youngest opera director in the world. And Ross was telling me the New York, the guy speaking in the New York chapter, usually his speaking fee is $250,000. So you're getting the cut price version today. So then I started thinking, what makes me qualified to speak about play? And obviously I studied drama, and for the purposes of this talk, we can call me an actor. So I act, so I'm in plays. So then I thought maybe I could talk about plays. But I actually don't know anything about plays. But I do know how to play. And that's what I'm going to talk about, is playing and how to play. Because that's what actors do, is they play a lot. So I studied fine art first, and had I known how to play, I would have been a much better fine art student, but I didn't have the discipline. But then in acting, because you get to play with other people, then I learned how to play, and that was really fun. And actors play a lot, but it's not all fun and games. So that's what I'm talking about today. So I'm going to talk about the two things that I think you need when you play in order to play successfully, and then I'll show you examples of the two things in these boxes over here. So small sideline. Let me talk about the boxes quickly, and then I'll talk about the two things, and then I'll show you the boxes, and then we'll have another cup of coffee. Okay, so the boxes are this Japanese art form that I learned in Japan. So I studied fine art, and then I studied drama, and then I didn't have a job, and I got fat, and I went to Japan and got depressed. But luckily, I discovered this art form which is called kamishibai, which is paper play. And then I brought kamishibai back and now use it to tell these stories in this play called The Epicene Butcher. So that's kamishibai. We'll look at that later. Okay, so actors are good at playing. And the two things that I think you need to play successfully are discipline and bravery. And there's a difference between being an actor and being someone who wants to be famous. And someone who wants to be famous doesn't want to play, and they take themselves very seriously. So we're not talking about those people. We're talking about actors who want to play. Okay, so my day, like a Wednesday, might look like I wake up at about 6:30, and then I go to Service Station or to Croft & Co. or to 44 Stanley, and I do my emails, housework. Hey? At Vovotello, yes. I have the berry pinwheels at Vovotello. And a double shot in corner Mel and Juta. Wherever there's Wi-Fi. Okay, so no, we're talking about discipline here. So awake at 6:30, go do emails, and then go, and this is the part which is really fun, go to a class with other actors, and we take a long piece of rope and we pull it across the room and we turn it like this, and then we jump, we do skipping for about 20 minutes, and then we pretend to be fire and ice, and we crawl around on the floor. And the best thing about acting is that you get to feel up other people. But this is the thing, is that, is that the only difference between playing and faffing is discipline, I think. So my day might look like a huge long faff, but there's got to be discipline. involved in that. And discipline, my favorite form of discipline is a deadline. So I usually book a show before I've made a show, and then I know that on the 14th of June someone's paying money to come and watch it, and I have to do it. So play with the other actors, roll around on the floor, be ice, be tigers, and then go and work with a writing friend of mine. And again, it might not look very disciplined. We get some biltong, and then we have some coffee, but we watch some TV. But it's all in service of something. So that's the one thing, is you've got to be quite disciplined. And so now I'll show you a story which I illustrated. I didn't write. The famous poet Edward Lear wrote this story. And this could be an example of playing with discipline, because I had to illustrate it in 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's the discipline of that. This is fine here. The Courtship of the Yonghy Bow. On the coast of Coromandel, where the early pumpkins blow, in the middle of the woods lived the Yonghy Bow. 2 old chairs and half a candle, 1 old jug without a handle. These were all the worldly goods in the middle of the woods. These were all the worldly goods of the Yonghy Bow, of the Yonghy Bow. Once among the bong trees, walking where the early pumpkins blow, to a little heap of stones came the Yonghy Bow, and there he heard a lady talking to some milk-white hens of Dorking. 'Tis the Lady Jingly Jones, on that little heap of stones sits the Lady Jingly Jones, said the Yonghy Bow, said the Yonghy Bow. Lady Jingly, sitting where the pumpkins blow, will you come and be my wife? Said the Yonghy Bow. I am tired of living singly on this coast so wild and shingly. I'm a-weary of my life. If you'll come and be my wife, quite serene would be my life, said the Yonghy Bow, said the Yonghy Bow. For on this coast of Coromandel shrimps and watercresses grow. Prawns are plentiful and cheap, said the Yonghy Bow. You shall have my chairs and candle, and my jug without a handle. Gaze upon the rolling deep. Fish are plentiful and cheap as the sea. My love is deep, said the Yonghy Bow, said the Yonghy Bow. Lady Jingly answered sadly, and her tears began to flow. Your proposal comes too late, Mr. Yonghy Bow. I would be your wife most gladly. And here she twirled her fingers madly. But in England I've a mate. Yes, you've asked me far too late. For in England I've a mate, Mr. Yonghy Bow, Mr. Yonghy Bow. Mr. Jones, his name is Handel Jones, Esquire and Co. Dorking fowls delights to send, Mr. Yonghy Bow. Keep your chairs and candle, and your jug without a handle. I can merely be your friend. Should my Jones more Dorkings send, I will give you 3, my friend. Mr. Yonghy Bow, Mr. Yonghy Bow. Though you've such a tiny body, and your head so large doth grow, though your hat hath blown away, Mr. Yonghy Bow, though you're such a hoddy-doddy, yet I wish that I could modify the words I needs must say. Will you please just go away? That is all I have to say, Mr. Yonghy Bow, Mr. Yonghy Bow. Down the slippery slopes of Myrtle, where the early pumpkins blow, to the calm and silent sea, fled the Yonghy Bow. There beyond the bay of Gurtle lay a large and lively turtle. You're the cove, he said, for me. On your back upon the sea, turtle, you shall carry me, said the Yonghy Bow, said the Yonghy Bow. And through the silent, roaring ocean did the turtle swiftly go, and holding fast upon his shell rode the yongy-bongy bow. With a sad, primeval motion toward the sunset isles of Boshen, still the turtle bore him well, holding fast upon his shell. Lady Jingly Jones, farewell, said the yongy-bongy bow, said the yongy-bongy bow. And from the coast of Coromandel did the lady never go. On that heap of stones she mourns for the yongy-bongy bow. On the coast of Coromandel in his jug, without a handle. Still she weeps and daily moans on that little heap of stones. To her dorking hens she moans for the yongy-bongy bow, for the yongy-bongy bow. So discipline can be completely self-imposed, and as a freelancer it kind of has to be, because no one's telling you when things happen. So I'd set myself a task one day, this fantastic poem, and I needed to illustrate it, and so I just did it with masking tape and like felt tip pens. Yeah, but as long as you've got something holding you together, you can do fantastic things, is the whole point of that story. Then the other thing, so discipline is the one, and the other is bravery. And making the show The Epicene Butcher was very brave, but the difference between bravery and stupidity is outcome. So at the time, you probably won't know the difference. So it was very brave because I didn't have a job. I borrowed 20,000 Rand from my grandmother and sunk 6 months of work into illustrating and writing with my writer friend these stories that became this play, which has become incredibly successful. But there was absolutely no guarantee at the time. It was terrifying. But the thing about a good player and an actor who's a good player does this, is that they make you feel confident because they're at least faking confidence. So when you go and watch a play, if it's not a play that has the fourth wall, which is drama speak for when the actors ignore that you're there, so they pretend to be in their lounge and there's a murder happened and it's very boring and you fall asleep, but they pretend you're not there, that's called the fourth wall. But The Epicene Butcher is a play that doesn't have a fourth wall, so that the actors engage with you, they look at you. So a good production is when an actor is brave enough and not afraid to look the fool, that they sort of metaphorically take you by the hand and go, come, I got this, let's go play. And that's what they're doing in performance. They're playing with the audience, and in rehearsal they're playing with their fellow actors, they're playing with the text, they're experimenting, they're not afraid. Yeah, but you never know, so don't be scared. You might do something really stupid often, but that's fine. When we have the big rope in the skipping room, I fall over it all the time. So then I wanted to illustrate the bravery / stupidity thing, and I can do, you choose which story. So when I was studying this thing in Japan, this very eccentric man who taught me kamishibai said to me, the day after he'd met me, he said, right, you can illustrate a story about the bombing of Hiroshima, and then we can go and tell it at Hiroshima Memorial Day in front of everyone outside the bomb dome, which was terrifying because we lived in Hiroshima province, but as a foreigner arriving and telling that story to the people to whom it belonged was an incredibly sensitive beast. And I attempted it, and it was either very brave or very stupid. So I can show you that one, or I can show you the one where we took the most revered man in our country and possibly the world, Nelson Mandela, and told his story, The Long Walk to Freedom, using manga. So which one do you want? You want the first one? Both? Okay. Have we got time? Okay. All right. Okay, just change up. this little box was made for me by the kamishibai man who taught me everything he knew. So it's very special. Okay. Right, and the story is called The Atom Seed, in Japanese, Genshi no Tane. And when we told it in Japan, we told it bilingually, and Hige Rokusan and myself were responsible for the writing of it, and I did the illustrations, but then he came with his neon highlighters and made them, you don't think that the Hiroshima story needs neon highlighters, but not going to be precious. Okay. So this story is called The Atom Seed. It was aimed at kids, by the way. All right. So, once upon a time, far, far away from Earth, there was a bright little star. Although he was trillions of miles away, we could still see him because his light shone so very brightly. This little star had excellent eyesight, and he liked very much to watch our planet. He would say to himself, because there was no one for trillions of miles to hear him, "What a peaceful planet, what a beautiful planet. I will call it the Dreamy Green Planet." Now, not everything on our dreamy green planet is quite so peaceful. People like to shout at each other, and animals like to eat each other, and buildings like to tear each other down. But the little star could look beyond these things, and for him it was very easy to find beauty on our dreamy green planet. Sometimes he would watch tiny birds drinking honey from tiny flowers. And sometimes he'd watch the tiny, tiny bugs on those tiny flowers. And sometimes he'd watch the tiny, tiny bugs that the tiny bugs like to eat. Sometimes he watched the tiniest things in the universe, atoms. And he said to himself, because there was no one for trillions of miles around to hear him, "How peaceful atoms are. Bumpity bump, bumpity bump. How beautiful they are." Now, some people on our dreamy green planet like to shout at each other, but some people like to watch atoms, just like the little star. And one of these people was called Marie Curie, and after looking at atoms for a long time, she said that she thought that atoms had very powerful things inside them which should probably not be let out. Marie Curie was quite right, of course, but atoms, like a peach full of worms, you only know that you shouldn't have opened it once you have, and it is too late. Around this time, the world became at war, which means that instead of just shouting at each other, people were now killing each other also. In the US of A, some army generals and scientists who like to look at atoms shut themselves in a room and they wouldn't let anyone in. They were making a bomb, a big bomb, the biggest bomb they had ever known in the universe, because this bomb was going to be made from an atom seed. They were going to cut open an atom and let out all those things that Marie Curie warned us about. On the 6th of August, 1945, the scientists took their bomb, called Little Boy, and they dropped it out of a plane known as the Enola Gay, and they dropped it on a city called Hiroshima. The little star from trillions of miles away saw what was happening, and he screamed out, "Don't do it! No! No!" On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 in the morning, Little Boy killed 70,000 people. But because the bomb was made from an atom seed, they kept dying for months after that, and for years after that. All this pain and suffering was too much for Little Star to bear, and his light went out. On his final breath, he said, "No." No. It's such a tiny word. And he said it so far away. It's traveling towards us at the speed of light, which is very fast, but it's still going to take a long time to reach us. And as his eyesight fades, little star watches his word as it rides atoms and asteroids towards our dreamy green planet. I do hope that it reaches us before anyone drops an atom seed ever again. There's that one. There we go. Right. Some of you may be familiar with this one. This is a South African story. Nelson Mandela wa 1930 にイースタンケープで生まれました。力持ちですごい赤ちゃんでした。Very, very strong. フォートヘアユニバーシティに来ました。に入学してオリバ田んぼと出会って親友になりました。Best of friends. 国一番の美女上にまでキゼラマンデラと結婚しました。バババラバババラバラバラバラバラバラ。I love you, Nelson. I love you too, Winnie. Congratulations! だからアパートヘイトはひどくなってきました。さらに大きくひどくなってきました。ファイト You can do it! ANC に参加しました。さらに大きく戦いました。ウムコントへシズへ戦いました。一番悪いよ。二番めっちゃ悪い。ペペペペペペペザブン。ネルソン・マンデラはロビンアイランドで囚われの身になりました。しくしく。1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9、10、11、12、13、14、15、17、18、20、19、やだよ21、23、24、25、なんとか、そして1990年、ついに彼は解放されました。バンザー。1994はネルソン・マンデラは大統領になりました。今はプレジデントです。メルティンポト、レインボーネーション、コシシケレリ、なんとか。1995はフランスはピナトのラグビーのワールドカップ優勝しました。ネルソン・マンデラはたくさんのフェイマスフレンズがあります。オプラ・ウィンフリーとボノとネオミ・カンベル。わおい。And they all lived happily ever after. The end. So be disciplined and be brave and don't be scared to take a nap every now and again. Thank you very much.
We've got a bit of time for some questions, so if you guys have some questions for Jemma, you can, or you can just throw money at her from the audience.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Could you see from there?
I went over there.
Okay, good.
Have you ever done books and CDs? I mean, it just seems an amazing way of communicating.
Yeah.
There's very complex stories in a beautiful, fun way.
It's a wonderfully simple medium, and it is like a storybook, because in grade naught, the teacher would read and then turn the book around and show you the illustrations. So, I mean, I wasn't hiding it very well here, but the words are all on the back. So that's how the thing is. And I worked this year a little bit with SADI, which is the South African Institute of Distance Education, and they've got a storybook project where they are trying to get storybooks all into Africa in the mother tongue of everyone in Africa, which is quite an ambitious thing. But so I worked on illustrations for those stories.
Also, the way you perform it would be wonderful to do it with a CD.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Thank you. Any other questions?
What was the response in Hiroshima?
The response was really good. The story took twice as long to tell, obviously, because it was in the English and the Japanese, but it was a novelty factor because there was this gaijin, this foreigner doing kamishibai, which is it's not like kabuki or no, it's not a high theatre form, it's street theatre, and it's very much in decline, which is very sad. But there were TV crews and and in Hiroshima in August, it's 38 degrees with 100% humidity, and we performed 8 times in the day outside the thing. And the summers in Japan, I didn't recognize myself. You swell. I had sausage fingers and a white, puffy face. So it was a rough day. But Hiroshima is strange because you go to Japan and then you especially as a foreigner, you go and you pay homage to Hiroshima and to the bomb dome, and it's incredibly emotional. And I lived about an hour away from Hiroshima, but then after a month you're going, so should we meet for coffee? Okay, let's meet by the bomb dome. Okay, bye. And it just becomes a place. And that's the biggest testament. I think that's the monument, is that city is thriving and it's cool and it's, it's amazing. Highly recommend it. Yes?
Do you know kind of the history of kamishibai, or the abridged version?
Yeah, not as much as I should. But, okay, so it came from... So it's animation, really, because it's it's the missing link between painted scrolls, which have the narrative through space rather than through time, and anime, which is through time, not through space. Yeah, but it's kind of doing the thing. But apparently, it was developed in the 12th century by Buddhist monks. So it's old. And then it was big in Japan in the kind of the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and then TV killed kamishibai, pretty much. Shame. But it looks a lot like TV. So
maybe that's where the inspiration is.
I think so. Yeah, and so these guys, the man who taught me, this incredibly eccentric individual, he rocked up one day with tubs and tubs and tubs and tubs of stories. He's got thousands that he rides around in a van, and then he's got a bicycle with a pop-up stage on the back, and so he just loads it up with stories, and off he goes into the villages and then the rule is that you don't have to pay, you can watch for free, but if you sit in the front row, you pay and you get sweets. So we've adopted that for our show. So the front row, everyone pays, but the front row gets sweets. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you didn't pay. But that's pretty much all I know about it. Yeah, cool. Mr. Forster,
Is the ABC in Butcher performance tonight and tomorrow sold out, and where is it, Jemma?
Tonight, the 8 o'clock show is sold out, but the 9:30 is not. And so it's at 8 and 9:30 tonight, and tomorrow night at Pop Art. And at 9:30 tonight, there is a special guest playing the role of Chalk Girl. So it promises to be something very exciting indeed. Where is Pop Art? 286 Fox Street in the 12 Decades Hotel, Arts on Main. Thank you very much, Ben. And then it'll be in Cape Town briefly in November, and then we're taking it to Australia because it's very colourful, and apparently they like that in Australia. The drag queens are beautiful, so I'm very excited. And then we're going to put it to bed and make new things. Yeah, so that's the plan.
So what's next?
What's next? A variety show about death. I need to learn to juggle. That's all I can tell you.
We have some food there you can practice.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
If you want to.
Not right now. No, I can't juggle yet at all. Can anyone else juggle? Yes, but it's very much that show is very much in the play stage now. Yeah, but we have a deadline on the 14th of December. It opens in Cape Town, so we got to make it. Yeah. Yeah.
14th of December, you said?
14th of the 9th of December, yes, and we'll bring it up to, if it's not a complete flop, we'll bring it to Joburg in March. Oh. Cool.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I just want to know, how did you and this old eccentric man come together? How did you find each other?
So I saw kamishibai in Kyoto at the manga museum. There's this beautiful primary school that they've turned into a manga museum, and it's got the longest wall of manga in the world. It's just this like. So I saw a performance there, and I thought it was fantastic. And then I went back to my little backwater nowhere town, and I said to my only friend, who was also an eccentric old man, but not that one. So I said, Ganch, I saw this thing called kamishibai. And he goes, oh, Jemma-san, I know the kamishibai performer in our town. We should write him a letter. So I was like, okay, let's write him a letter. So we wrote him a letter with English on the one side and Japanese on the other side. And then 2 weeks later, this man just appeared and would not give me a choice. He took me under his wing and he was like, right, we're going to make kamishibai, which was incredibly daunting. But I said yes, because I didn't have a choice. He used to say, via Gunch, he'd send Gunch a text message saying, I will fetch Jemma at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, we perform kamishibai. So, okay. And I'd be ready at 6 o'clock, and I didn't know that we'd be gone for 2 days. He took me, he would put me in his van, and we'd go off into the province and perform for the entire weekend. I didn't know when I was going to eat or drink or sleep, I just did what I was told. So it was incredibly stressful, but it was very, very, very much worth it. I learned from him, obviously the technology of it is very simple, but the size of his performance was what was so interesting to me, is that he wasn't afraid to to really use your voice to play, really, and he did. And his audience was small children, which is the hardest audience in the world. They're like... So the sweets help. Yeah. So his name was Hige Roxan, and he was incredibly strange by Japanese standards, because it's quite a conservative place. But the old people were the most liberal that I met, because they no longer had to abide by the rules of society. They could breathe a little bit. So Hige Roxan wore if he was wearing a purple onesie, then he'd wear a purple handkerchief on his head with the little knots here. If it was an orange onesie, then it was the orange handkerchief with the little knots on his head. He had a goatee and the whole vibe. He was amazing. Yeah. Oh, and did I bring it? Oh no, I didn't. But he wrote me a story when I left. I don't know if it was for me. He might have done for all the girls, because it's a story about this Japanese kamishibai man, Hige Roxan, and he's got his superhero mask and his winged horse, and then there's this foreign woman drowning in a river. Help me! And he swoops in and picks me up, and his hands are all over. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, Jemma Kahn, you know, I will save you. But but the pictures weren't originals; they were photocopies. So I'm wondering whether, yeah. Yep. Yeah, so that was him. Anyone else? Fantastic. Yes.
So you went to a foreign country and you got into a van with strangers and you took you away for 2 days and you didn't think at some point maybe I'm going to get converted. Have you seen movies?
I never did. I never did.
He wasn't strange. He got introduced to him.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was eccentric, but he wasn't strange. He wasn't dodgy. Yeah. And he even, because the day that I met him, he provided us with his CV, which obviously was no use to me because my Japanese is awful. But like, it looked like he'd had 30 jobs in his life. He'd been like a shipbuilder and a carpenter and like a sailor and a this and a that and all sorts of things. But now he was a professional kamishibai man.
And you had to be brave.
And I had to, I just had to like, and it didn't seem like a fun idea at the time. It was obviously, like I was doing it, you kind of pay lip service to yourself in the future. You're like, oh, I can look back and tell people the story about when I met this guy, you know, but at the time I was like, this is really hard. Like I'm spending 5 hours in a car with a guy, like we can't communicate, I'm hungry. You know? Yeah, but you just do it, I guess. Yeah, so there've been a couple of decisions leading up to the butcher, which were either very brave or very, very reckless, you know. So going to Japan in the first place, like I didn't even want to go to Japan, but I went. And then I didn't want to stay there, but I did. And I didn't want to play with this weird guy, but I did. And then I didn't want to have an affair in Ireland with like a alcoholic punk rocker, but I did. And then so it all makes sense in the end. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.